This week's sky makes exactly one exact aspect, the Sun trine Saturn, on Friday. 1. That rarity is the story, and if your Sun, Moon, or rising sign sits in Leo or Aries, Friday is yours. Here's the whole week and what a quiet sky is good for. This is the week ahead, the coming week's real sky, computed from astronomy, mapped to your own chart. Here's the week of August 2nd. The week at a glance. Sunday, the moon moves into Aries. Monday and Tuesday, nothing exact. Wednesday, the moon settles into Taurus. Thursday, it reaches last quarter there. Friday carries the week's only exact aspect, the Sun trine Saturn, as the moon slips into Gemini. Saturday closes quiet. That's the entire list, and that's unusual. So what do you do with a week like this? A quiet sky doesn't mean nothing happens in your life. It means the sky isn't adding weather to it. Busy weeks color everything with their aspects, and whatever you start picks up that flavor. A sparse week runs cleaner. Plans move at the speed you work them. Conversations carry only the charge you bring to them, and whatever surfaces is yours rather than the moment's. Weeks like this are the ones experienced astrologers quietly prefer for unglamorous progress. No tailwind, no headwind, just road. The background hasn't changed, though. Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto all run retrograde through the week, with Saturn's turn still fresh from last Sunday's episode. 3 slow planets in review at once tilts the season toward auditing rather than launching. Commitments, ideals, and the deep structural stuff each get a second look on their own timetable. You won't feel that as a single day's event. It reads as a mood underneath the month, a pull toward finishing and pruning over adding. If you know your houses, the houses those 3 occupy in your chart, name the 3 life areas under review, and a quiet week is a natural window to visit them. Thursday, the moon reaches its last quarter in Taurus. The lunar cycle has 4 hinges, and this is the closing one, the phase between a full moon's peak and the next new moon's reset. Last quarters lean toward release, the point where you stop carrying what the cycle already finished. In Taurus, a sign about the tangible, that closing work gets practical. The subscription you don't use, the half-done purchase, the commitment of money or comfort that quietly expired. Clearing one real thing on Thursday counts. If your chart has placements in Taurus, or your sun, moon, or rising sign lives there, this phase lands closest to you. Then Friday, the week's one exact aspect, and it's a good one, the Sun in Leo trine Saturn in Aries. A trine is the frictionless angle, and this pair is effort meeting endorsement. The Sun is your center of gravity, what you're building your days around. Saturn is the standard, the part that asks whether the work is real. When they trine, the usual tug-of-war between wanting and disciplining goes slack, and steady effort tends to land the way you hoped it would. Both planets sit in fire signs, so this isn't heavy discipline, it's momentum with a spine. It's a classic day for the meeting you've been preparing for, the milestone push, the ask that needs you at your most credible. If your chart has placements in Leo or Aries, or your sun, moon, or rising sign falls in either, Friday is the day this week built for you. If knowing which day carries the week helps you plan it, the like button tells me to keep mapping them. The moon's own week. It enters Aries Sunday, and the early days run on that sign's directness. Quick starts, short fuses, a bias for action. Wednesday it grounds into Taurus, and the pace thickens, steadier and more physical, right as the last quarter asks what can go. Friday it lightens into Gemini for the weekend, sociable and curious, a mood for conversation after a week of quiet work. Fast start, firm middle, light finish. That's the week for everyone. Now, your sign. The chapters below take you straight to yours. Read your rising sign if you know it, because these run on houses, and your sun sign if you don't. 12 signs, One sky, 12 different rooms it plays out in. Aries, the week's one exact aspect, is built on your sign. Saturn sits in your first house, and on Friday, the Sun trines it from your fifth, the house of what you make and who you love. Effort you've put into a creative project, a romance, or a child's world tends to get a steady yes from the standard you hold yourself to. Show the work that day. Thursday brings the last quarter moon to your second house of income and own things, and one expense or purchase has outlived its usefulness. Let it go before the next cycle starts. The moon also opens the week in your sign on Sunday, which gives Monday a fast fuse. Spend that early push on the thing Friday can reward. Taurus, Thursday's last quarter moon happens in your sign, your first house, so this cycle's finishing work is personal. Something you've carried as part of your identity, a habit, a role, a standing yes is done, and this phase is where you set it down. Choose it yourself. You know which one it is. Friday's Sun-Saturn trine runs through quieter rooms of your chart. The Sun in your fourth house of home and family, Saturn in your 12th, the private layer. Hours put into the household, even the invisible kind, hold better than usual. The moon rides through your sign Wednesday into Friday, so the middle of the week feels most like you. Use it to finish, not to add. Gemini, Friday hands you a rare pairing. The Sun in your third house of voice and ideas trines Saturn in your 11th, the friends and network room of your chart. Something you say, write, or pitch has a clear runway to the people with pull, and they're inclined to take it seriously. If a message has been waiting for its moment, Friday is the moment. The same day, the moon enters your sign for the weekend, so you close the week quick on your feet and easy to find. Thursday's last quarter sits in your 12th house, the chart's back room, and it favors putting down a private worry that has finished whatever teaching it was doing. A slow week bores a mind like yours. Give it one deliverable and it behaves. Cancer, Friday's trine connects your money to your career. The Sun in your second house of income reaches Saturn in your 10th, the public standing corner of your chart. A classic shape for the pay conversation, the rate you quote without flinching, the piece of work that raises your professional stock without fanfare. Steadiness is the currency here. Nothing about this pairing rewards a dramatic move. Thursday's last quarter moon works through your 11th house of groups and friends, where a membership, a committee seat, or a group thread may be ready to close out. Stepping back isn't a statement, it's housekeeping. Make the calm professional case on Friday and let the rest of the week stay plain. Leo, the Sun is in your sign, which makes Friday's trine yours before anyone else's. From your first house, it reaches Saturn in your 9th, the house of study, travel, and the long view, so the version of you people meet this week carries conviction behind it. Commit out loud to the long-range thing, the course, the trip, the stance you've been testing privately. Aim past the horizon, and it sticks. Thursday asks something different of you. The last quarter. Moon moves through your 10th house of career, and one professional chapter is ready to be wrapped rather than extended. The project that's finished, the duty that expired. Clear it Thursday, and Friday arrives with your hands free. Virgo, this week works best off-stage for you. Friday's Sun sits in your 12th house, the private preparation room, and trines Saturn in your 8th, the house of shared money and debts. Work nobody watches compounds under this pair. The plan drafted, the balance paid down, the agreement reread line by line. Your best move of the week needs no audience. Thursday's last quarter falls in your 9th house of study, travel, and belief, and something there has run its course, the class that finished its job, the opinion you no longer need to defend. Drop 1. A sparse sky plus a 12th house sun reads like an assignment. Prepare now. Be seen later. Libra, Friday puts your friends and your partner on the same side. The Sun in your 11th house of groups and allies meets Saturn by Trine in your 7th, the committed partnership house, so the people around the relationship and the relationship itself stop pulling in different directions for a day. A natural window for introducing those worlds. The partner brought to the gathering, the trusted friend consulted about the commitment. Thursday's last quarter moon turns through your 8th house of shared money, the phase for final numbers, a joint account, a repayment, a cost split that needs its last figure. Settle it before the weekend, and it stops renting space in your head. 2 days carry your whole calendar. The rest is open road. Scorpio, Friday rewards the grind you've already built. The Sun crosses the top of your chart, your 10th house of career, and trines Saturn in your 6th, the daily routine room, which means visible professional effort tends to be carried by the systems underneath it. The deadline met because the checklist works. If you've kept the routine through a slow summer, Friday is where it shows. Thursday's last quarter moon spends the day in your 7th house of partnership, and its finishing tone usually retires an expectation rather than a person, the standard you've been holding someone to that neither of you agreed on out loud. Name it, release it, and the relationship travels lighter without a single scene. Sagittarius, the week's only aspect, runs through your 2 favorite rooms. Friday's Sun in your 9th house, travel, study, conviction, your home turf, trines Saturn in your 5th house of creative work and romance. Belief meets craft, the book outline that finally gets a structure, the trip planned instead of daydreamed, the romance that benefits from an intention stated plainly. Both planets sit in your fellow fire signs, so the day runs at your native temperature. Thursday's last quarter moon prunes your 6th house of routines and workload. One recurring task is ready to come off the calendar for good. Cut it before Friday, so the day arrives uncluttered. A 1-aspect week aimed at your best houses is a gift. Spend it on purpose. Capricorn, Friday's trine involves your ruling planet, so it counts double for you. Saturn sits in your 4th house of home and family, and the Sun reaches it from your 8th, the shared money house. The shape favors the serious household matter, the budget put in writing, the family agreement about who covers what, the paperwork everyone keeps postponing. What you build there on Friday tends to keep its value. Thursday's last quarter. Moon visits your 5th house of pleasure and creative projects, and its let-go tone points at one indulgence or stalled project worth shelving without ceremony. The subscription that stopped earning its fee, the half-built thing that stopped being fun. You're made for quiet weeks. Most signs aren't. Use this one to file something permanent. Aquarius, Friday's aspect runs from the Sun in your 7th house of partnership to Saturn in your 3rd, the house of words and agreements. Read that plainly. A relationship conversation goes better in concrete terms than in atmosphere. Put the understanding into a sentence both of you can repeat back or into writing if it's business. The agreement comes easily under a trine. Your job Friday is making it specific. Thursday's last quarter moon moves through your 4th house of home and family, finishing something domestic. The arrangement that's been winding down, the box packed for weeks, the recurring friction that ends once someone stops re-arguing it. Let the house empty a little on Thursday, and Friday's conversation begins on softer ground. Pisces, Friday connects your daily work to your income. The Sun in your 6th house of routine and workload trines, Saturn in your 2nd, the house of money and worth. The week favors consistent work over the inspired burst, and Friday is a natural day to make the consistency official. A rate set, a schedule fixed, an invoice finally sent. The routine you keep is the raise you're building. Thursday's last quarter. Moon clears your 3rd house of conversations and errands, the loose end layer, the message thread that needs one last reply, the errand rolled forward 5 times. Answer it, run it, done. A thin sky suits your interior weather anyway. Keep the week small and bank Friday's steadiness. The reminder that anchors every one of these episodes: the sky sets conditions and you set the course. A transit never signs anything, ends anything, or builds anything. That part happens at your desk, in your week, on your say-so. A mirror, not a prophecy. Friday's trine falls in 2 exact houses of your chart, and those houses change what it's an invitation to do. I read mine in Mystic Almanac. The free link below opens yours. I'll have next week mapped before it starts. Subscribe, and Sunday takes care of itself.